In a small company, the management team must take on responsibility for all aspects of the business. One of these is with inventory optimization, where the choice can range between investing in expensive enterprise software or going it alone and doing it manually in-house. Today on LokadTV, we're going to understand this dilemma and discuss what are the options available for an SMB to make best use of their limited resources. So Johannes, perhaps we can just start off by explaining a little bit more about the scope today. So what is sort of the size of an SMB?
So we are talking of a company that I would say is between 2 million and probably something like $30 million turnover, which is quite a range already. And where the problem at hand is, we assume that this company is, selling physical goods. Either they manufacture themselves, it's light manufacturing, or they have some kind of brand, or and they sell some products that they acquire from suppliers. And in this setup, we are really talking of the problem of deciding exactly, you typically need inventory just because things don't teleport in your warehouse. So you need to maintain some level of inventory. And the big challenge is exactly how do you deal with making sure that the amount of money that you're investing into your stock doesn't, goes completely out of the window.
Okay, so where's the sort of lower limit then? I mean, when do you need to start sort of introducing tools to start managing and optimizing your inventory?
I mean, below $1 million of turnover, probably there is very little things that you can do in terms of, I would say, inventory optimization. Just because at this level, we are basically talking about a boutique, something very, very small where you can literally see all your inventory at a glance. You can actually, if you're the owner of the company and you're very familiar with, your store or your small warehouse, you can literally do a visual inspection and have like a good insight on whether there are stuffs that are not moving. You don't necessarily need tools, you can do it visually. Once you're at the stage where, let's say, $3 million to 30, that's a stage where at $3 million per year, where, I mean, you might end up with, $500,000 and above of stuff in inventory that is just lying around, and it becomes quite complex to just do like a visual inspection. So you need tooling, and if you don't, you put yourself at risk of just doing like blunt mistakes that happens to be quite expensive actually.
Okay, and that's in terms of sort of managing the inventory. What about in terms of forecasting stock requirements? I know in kind of a previous episode we were talking about people using a lot of Excel in order to do that. Where does that reach its kind of limitations?
So first, indeed, the first step is just to actually have some kind of electronic inventory management system, just to make sure that nothing gets lost, stolen, misplaced. Just very basic needs. Where otherwise, typically, the traditional vision from I would say from the accounting perspective, your accountant knew how much inventory value you have, but but you were doing like a full inventory twice a year, and this was it. Here we are talking of having the term is not used that much anymore, but what we call about perpetual inventory. Perpetual inventory is just a way to have like at any point of time your stock levels, and in order to have that you need a piece of software to do that. So that basically for SMBs, that was to move from basically inventorying twice a year to just perpetual inventory, where you just know your stock levels at any point of time, and you can have like basic things like just to track, for example, if you've actually if the quantities that you receive from a supplier match what you've actually ordered. Very basic things like reconciliation of what I ordered, what I received, this sort of stuff. So we are not talking yet of anything that would look like optimization. This is just about, I would say, having some degree of control over the process itself, because as soon as you reach, I would say, let's say, probably $1 million and above, you're probably going to have like a few employees. And obviously, when you have employees, potentially someone might be, not do such a good job. I mean, it's not their money, it's not their stuff anymore. So bottom line, yes, you can trust them, but the idea is in business is trust but verify. So basically, you trust them because you've hired them, but also you have the tools to verify that everything is going well.
Okay.
And that's what the software gives you.
So are there certain tools that a CEO can kind of introduce when they're starting to employ staff in order to kind of limit those mistakes and kind of reduce that occurring?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what a basic inventory management system will give you. You can track and you can just do random checks in your small warehouse or in your store where you say, okay, the system tells me I have 5 units in stock. I can just pick a shelf and check if I can find those things, randomized, checks. And it works. And also there are class of, again, very mundane mistakes like you can end up with very mundane mistakes where the supplier has made an honest mistake, they forgot something, and then you didn't check and nobody checked, and so you end up paying for stuff that you didn't receive. And again, it's not that your supplier is trying to literally defraud you. It's just that mistakes happens, and here you basically add some tools to prevent class of mistakes. Again, if you've ever dealt with inventory, it's not exactly like a super exciting job. So it's very easy to get distracted and just make like inattention mistakes. I mean, humans are not robots. It's very hard to count inventory for 8 hours straight without making any mistake at all.
Okay, so that's kind of the inventory kind of management side of things.
Yes.
Now, if we look at the inventory optimization side of things, what are kind of the options that are open to a CEO?
So that's interesting. I mean, as soon as someone has the power to buy stuff for your company, I mean, this person has basically access to your bank account. I mean, it's as a small business owner, it's a bit a terrifying experience to say, I've hard-earned money, and then you're just going to delegate the power to spend the money to a third person. So the reality is that actually most business owners, most managers actually delay this sort of things as long as possible. I mean, and the reason is that it's potentially the sort of things that can actually kill you as a small business. If someone you're like a $2 million turnover business and you just delegate purchasing to an employee who just mistakenly pass a 50,000 order of stuff that you don't need, it really hurts a lot. I mean, if your company is not like healthy and profitable, that can actually kill you. So because of that, business owners tend to postpone as long as possible, this sort of delegation of power. But bottom line, at some point, with the growing complexity, the idea that as the owner or manager, you just spend, your Fridays to basically do the purchasing doesn't work anymore because there is just not enough hours in the week. So at some point, as your company grows, the amount of hours that you need to spend on purchasing, for example, grows as well. Not linearly, but quite linearly. And because you typically don't have any tooling or anything, and thus at some point you need to start hiring your first, employee just for this purpose, which is going to be, it's going to be like a supply planner, a purchaser, a supply chain manager, or something, inventory manager. You can give this person many titles, but in the end, this person is someone who will come up with the Excel spreadsheet that decide exactly what your company need to buy on every single day.
And as well as maybe having that supply chain planner in-house, there's also that option of kind of externalizing that competency. I mean, there's plenty of consultants out there who build you very nice spreadsheets and all that sort of thing. How well does that kind of work?
So indeed, I mean, that's a setup. Obviously, as a small but growing business, you're facing a situation where usually the question is that, do I take yet another full-time employee to take care of that? Or maybe I'm going to leverage some kind of freelance resources. And actually, it might not be that freelance. I've seen many companies who, for example, just delegate this work at a certain point of time to the accountant. So the accountant is not full-time. It's not an in-house accountant. It's just a person who has been following the company for a long time. By the way, that also explains why most of those inventory management capabilities for SMBs originated from accounting packages like QuickBooks, Sage, Sagid, respectively. Xero, if we go to Australia, for example. So the accountant is like a natural candidate to take over, but the problem is that it's a lot of stuff. So typically, in terms of man hours, it's a lot more than your accountant usually do for one company. So there is very quickly a point where your accountant can be relatively pricey by the hour. So there is a point of time where it makes more sense to, lacking any alternative option, to just take one person full time.
Okay, and somewhere in between on the kind of scale of cost between doing it in-house and that kind of expensive enterprise software is a solution such as Lokad, an external kind of software solution, right?
Absolutely. But first, let me clarify what you can have with enterprise software classical. Well, I'm not a big believer that classical enterprise software deliver much added value, especially in those areas. Actually, now when you go enterprise, so let's say you're $1 billion above, so you're very large, then you enter another classes of problems, which is you don't have one person doing purchasing, you have dozens, if not hundreds. And then you end up with entire classes of problems. You need to manage those people. You need to have budgets. You need to have rules. Even if you're very good at hiring people that are honest, when you're hiring hundreds of people, you will have people that will actually try to actively defraud you, and they will leverage the fact that the landscape is very complex, and so when they do defraud you, it can be very hard to uncover those frauds. So you have entire classes of problems that I would say on the enterprise side, and it's funny. I mean, most small business owners who look at those enterprise products, they would say, "Oh, those products would do everything that I need." And my basic answer is no, not at all. Those products, they don't focus at all on the sort of problems that you have. They are all about, I would say, dealing with the complexities that are generated by the fact that you have large teams involved, which is not your problem. So no, your problem is really purely about having something that can replicate with much less time the inventory performance that you can obtain if you were willing to spend multiple days of your week on that as being the business owner. That's your key challenge. That's what you want to replicate.
So what you're kind of saying there is you need kind of a more specialized tool that really focuses on those operational kind of decisions and only that.
And that's the approach that Lokad took. Actually, we decided to build a platform that was really, tailored for specific, I would say, for the specific problems related to inventory optimization, which is to decide when to buy, how much to buy. If you have multiple options, like do I want like the fast delivery or the slow delivery, from my supplier, which one do I pick? How do I deal with MOQs? How do I deal with price breaks and all those sort of complexities and options that are that you have, even if you're a small business. But, and that's the trick, is that the problem is that the reality is that the software itself cannot, on its own, gain all those insights. There is too much complexity involved, and my personal, I would say, belief is that although it's completely possible to have like a very rigid piece of software that does inventory management for many, many verticals. So you can say, I don't care whether you're producing, I don't know, small electronic devices, or if you're producing, let's say, bathtubs, or if you're actually selling T-shirts. Inventory management, kind of software-wise, kind of looks the same, really. You have some businesses like where you need serial inventory, so you want to keep track of every serial number for every single part. That's commonly found in, let's say, aerospace or medical, medical devices where you want to have like complete traceability. But beside, I would say, a few specific angles, overall, I would say you can have things that works for tons of verticals. When it comes to inventory optimization, unfortunately, No, you really need to have something that works. You really need something where tons of insights about the business have been injected into the piece of software.
Okay, how about the prices of these software? I mean, it's certainly something that's expensive for some of these smaller businesses. Is it something that you think is justified?
So, I mean, first let me clarify. I would say most software optimization tools that are dedicated for SMBs are actually exceedingly cheap. You know, exceedingly cheap, like $100 a month. But the question is, and that's so you see, people start, okay, for inventory management, you have a super cheap piece of software, $100 a month works, fine. Now you will think about inventory optimization and you will see, oh, there is another piece of software that is like $100 a month. Great. Does it deliver? But does it deliver the value it pretends it does? My personal belief is that absolutely not. Absolutely not. And thus, the piece of software ends up very, very costly. Not because you're charged $100 a month, which is inconsequential. Inconsequential if you're a multi-million-dollar business, you know. Maybe not if you're like a super tiny store or boutique. But basically, for an SMB at $3 million and above per year, this is pocket money. But this piece of software that is geared toward inventory optimization, my conviction, and I've seen there is like dozens of the market, is that it never delivers the performance that it's supposed to deliver. Why? Because you invariably end up with a piece of software that is going to implement like the super naive basic recipes like ABC analysis, safety stock, service level, time series forecast. You know, I mean, I think we covered all those topics in many episodes, and basically those things just do not work. They just give you a pseudo-scientific impression of working. You know, you will get numbers, it will compute a safety stock, which looks very safe, but it's actually completely unsafe, but whatever. So it will do some kind of very dumb time series analysis and give you suggested decision. But the reality is this piece of software is not going to do anything better than Excel.
Okay, we're going to have to start sort of wrapping things up a little bit. But if you were a CEO of an SMB, what are the key sort of decisions that you should make, and what is the sort of path that you should follow?
So, I mean, my suggestion, and then we can come back to, you know, Lokad, what we try to offer is that my conviction is that if you're below, let's say, $2 or $3 million, keep your Excel spreadsheet. You need electronic inventory management. For the optimization, just keep your Excel sheets clean and well organized. Probably don't delegate. I mean, delegation is a very risky business at this scale. The businesses that survived are the ones where people have been very paranoid about that. If you go above, I would say, don't fall into the trap of thinking that a piece of software that is doing like again, if you see on the website of the vendor words like safety stock, ABC analysis, service level, overstock detection and whatnot, just not going to work. What Lokad offers, what we do is that I believe that there is no magic. We need to introduce like a supply chain copilot, which is what we call the supply chain scientist, who is going to act as a copilot for your company to be kind of similar to the sort of setup where you were delegating that to a really trusted party like your accountant, but with someone who has better tools. You know, your accountant can be trusted, he's competent, but the problem is that he has his tools, especially all the software tools that he has, are basically geared toward his prime job, which is accounting. So it's not in terms of tooling, your accountant comes with a handicap that it doesn't necessarily has from day one the proper tooling to just execute that. So the idea is that at Lokad, my advice, the vision, and we have executed that successfully many times, is actually how Lokad got to the point it is right now, is by working in tandem with SMBs where Lokad provide part-time, obviously, a supply chain scientist who becomes typically the co-pilot answering directly to the managing director or the owner, the small CEO of this SMB, and basically crafting something that goes beyond Excel, but with tons of insight with the business.
Final sort of question here. The supply chain scientist is someone with a real high level of expertise. We're talking about people with PhDs, we're talking about people with backgrounds in kind of data science. They're incredibly gifted and incredibly expensive as a result. For an SMB, who's not the biggest sort of company, do we really need this level of expertise, or is it kind of like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut?
So, I mean, obviously, Lokad, we have gone the path of having expensive people. Some people might disagree that we're not paying them enough, but basically, I think we are on the more expensive range of the salaries. But the reality is that even if you're a small business, supply chain-wise, you have nearly all the problems of a large companies. You know, you have MOQs, you have price breaks, and statistically speaking, you have even less data, which make all the statistical analysis even more complicated. So unfortunately, the idea of having like unqualified manpower to solve this sort of problem just doesn't work in practice. So that's one thing. Now, that was the approach of Lokad. I realized super early on that yes, those resources would be very expensive. So what is the solution? You need a software platform that makes those people very, very productive. And by the way, that's why in 2012 we decided to not have Lokad being a platform that would offer programmatic capabilities in Python, but we went for our own domain-specific programming language. And that was the prime motivation was because if we had been doing that in Python, it would have been completely impossible, infeasible in terms of just economical cost to serve SMBs. We needed something where a supply chain scientist who is relatively expensive, can this person with half a day a week deliver a good service to a small company? And the short answer is yes, with proper tooling. But tooling is completely critical to preserve the productivity so that this expert can really spend, I would say, 3 super productive hours a week to drive your replenishment instead of just spending days to deal with mundane problems of compatibilities between libraries of packets or whatever is the Python setups that you've tried to set up in your company.
Okay, great. We'll have to leave it there. So that's everything for this week. Thanks very much for tuning in, and we'll see you again in the next episode. Bye for now.